because Aristotle wasn't as much into geometry. He wasn't as much into the mathematics side, even though he was one of the proteges of Plato. They had kind of their disagreement. He's sort of like, in that context, he was like in opposite sense. You've got Carl Jung and you've got Freud, right? You could say, even though it was a different opposite mentor-mentee relationship, you had Plato and Aristotle. Aristotle was a botanist who liked to classify things in narrow categories.
Right.
Right? So phylotypes, right? Very, very narrow categories for plants and flora and fauna. Well, you've got Plato who says, all is number.
Yeah, he was the mystic. Same with Jung, more of the mystic.
Yeah, he's like, I went in this cave and it's like allegory of the cave and I saw these shadows and I realized that, wait a minute, there's a whole world out there and it relates to the realm of forms.
Yeah, it's like David and Joseph as well. I mean, you see this pairing as well, where this like kind of mystic, wide open mentality then goes into someone where someone wants to just codify everything and simplify it all in this kind of separate way.
But would you be surprised to know that Pythagoras and Plato were equally artists and musicians?
I wouldn't.
See, philosophy was something that you would achieve and attain after you started to master all of the different arts and sciences. Philosophy was an end result. It wasn't just starting by studying rhetoric of what other people said and thought. It was coming to those conclusions philosophically through a broad matrix of understanding of information, which then brings your brain to a balanced position. So most people think that our brains are radio. I mean, most people believe that our brains rather are hard drive storage devices. It's like I've got a hard drive storage on my computer. I'm going to pump as much stuff in that thing as I can until I find out there's not any more space. And I got to figure out something's got to go out of there, right? Or I'm going to expand, get another hard drive. Well, we can't get another hard drive. Our brains, I don't believe, are that at all. I believe our brains are actually radio receivers. And the way we learn how to attenuate, how do we titrate that signal to its perfection, is by learning how to balance that muscle as an antenna. Mm-hmm. And once we can balance that muscle as an antenna, the only way to do that is by getting to learn learn a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
Right? Get a broad perspective. And in order to do that, you have to open up your mind to seeing and feeling other people's viewpoints and perspectives. See the world through a poet's eyes. See the world or feel the world through an artist's eyes. And, there's a great saying that I love to use all the time, which is when the heart thinks and when the mind feels, the river of wisdom flows. Wisdom is a result of this study of all these things, a lifetime of curiosity. And it shouldn't end. These were all guys, we stopped studying geometry when we're in 10th grade.
Literally.
Geometry to them was a lifetime pursuit.
Sure.
Plato discovered the Platonic solids, right? You start going back through Archimedes, discovered the Archimedean solids, and categorized all of them so we could have reference points of our thought. This was only achieved. Discovery of mathematics and geometry is achieved as a result of this philosophical result, right? It's not because I studied rhetoric or I studied Nietzsche or I studied these other people. That's a great pursuit too. But philosophy, by definition, changed, just like the word mathematics used to mean the study of all learning because it was the language of all learning. It was all is number. It was Aristotle came and said, no, it's just narrowly the science of quantity.
One of the previous podcast guests I had, John Vervaeke, he talks about the difference between philosophia, the love of wisdom, versus philonikeia, which is the love of victory. And we're in the era now where we've played out the love of victory, the love of being better than somebody else, and returning hopefully to this love of wisdom and these fundamental principles that you're talking about. All right, if you love wisdom, how do you get your brain to a position where you can receive wisdom and get your heart to a position where you can receive wisdom? And this is, like we said, this spiraling, multi-dynamic way in which we do it. I mean, I had the foolish enterprise of trying to understand how to master the mind. I was going to write a whole book about it. And then I abandoned 60,000 words 3 times. I tried this because I ultimately realized
After 60,000 words?
3 times.
Jeez.
3 times.
That's a long book.
It's a lot of attempts at this, but there was no way that I could actually find a point where the mind, going back to the mind as a receiver, where the mind was separate from capital M mind of the entire universe. So by saying master your mind, I was basically saying, I'm going to write a book called Master the Universe. And it never worked. Of course it didn't work.
Yeah.
But it was very instructive for me. That practice of doing that helped me to know for sure my own gnosis, like, oh, I get it now. I get it. There is no way that you can separate your mind from your body, from the collective mind, from the field of mind, from God itself. You can't separate that. And so in that practice, I don't consider it a loss, even though it was a lot of labor that's not going to get a lot of tangible result. My publisher certainly has had to wait quite a long time because I'm going to be writing a radically new book now. But it's these fundamental principles, if we understood them from the start, basic operating manual for the human body, music and breath, and how the mechanisms of the heart and mind and heart-brain coherence and all of these things, and how to actually grow. I mean, this is what needs to be applied in post-revolution, post-Renaissance, into ground-up thinking from right from the drop. So
and
that
that's
everybody
what I am
understands.
so excited about.
Yeah, that's
Because
what
that's
one
happening right now.
It is. It is.
And people all around the world, like yourself, right? And so many people that I've met are building that new architecture, right? And you will be writing that story. I see that. You will write that story that will help many, many people, because people ask me all the time, it's like, okay, you find all these hidden things, but why was it all hidden? And I'm like, but see, that's the best part. It was hidden so it could be found. Right. Everything that we experience is funny. It was Henry Ford that said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you'll be right.